What's up, everyone? Lawson Turner back with another episode of the Cover 2 podcast. I'm your host, per usual, and I was going to do a video over the Chiefs and the Ravens AFC Championship game, but when there's breaking news, we got to start there first. The Pittsburgh Steelers decided to sign Arthur Smith, former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons and former offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans, to be their offensive coordinator. Now, from the outside looking in, when I first saw the news, I was surprised, but I wasn't. There's no disdain here. I think it's a better hire than what people make it out to be as of right now. I think we could have done a lot worse. But we look at what he did in Atlanta, and it wasn't anything special. They finished 7-10, 7-10, 7-10, and their offense was below average at best. I'm going to get into that, but first I wanted to start when he was the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. He was calling plays for a Titans team that in 2019 they were, this is just important stats, they were 10th in points scored, they were 12th in total yards, and then for your key other stats, they were 8th in passing touchdowns, they had the 5th lowest amount of interceptions thrown, they were 10th in rushing attempts, but 3rd in rushing yards, 2nd in touchdowns, 3rd in rushing yards per attempt, and they made it to the AFC Championship game and ended up losing. Then the very next year in 2020, they go from 10th to 4th in points for, 2nd in total yards. Their passing was attempt wise and yards wise, it wasn't anything ideal. They in 2019 they were 31st. 2020 they went to 30th. The yards went from 21st in 2019 to 23rd in 2020. But in 2020 we saw them have the second lowest amount of interceptions, and then their rushing attack just was almost the exact same. Besides their Derrick Henry got a lot more carries. Their rushing attempts went from 10th to 2nd. Their rushing yards went from 3rd to 2nd. Their rushing touchdowns, they still were at 2nd. And then their yards per attempt was 2nd. And they lost the wild card game to the Baltimore Ravens. But with that being said, I would love to say Kenny comes back and wins his starting job back in the in training camp, and him and Pickens still look like a 1-2 punch, and Deontay's catching touchdowns, and Pat's working the middle, and everything's great. But even though with the NFL becoming more of a passing league, I still think there is room for a running game. You saw the Ravens were awesome this year on the ground. You see the Chiefs over the past month and a half. They're more of a running control the ground team. And it's nothing to be ashamed of that because the league's going all passing now. It looks different. More than anything, it just looks different. It's not pretty. The style of football, it's not pretty. But this is what the Steelers they've hung their hat on for years, being a physical, tough team, offense and defensively, controlling the line of scrimmage, which our offensive line over the past couple of years has been a revolving door. But we saw over the last month of the regular season, we started to get our get our feet under us and really do a lot of good things on the ground. And I think that with Arthur Smith's philosophy, and when he had success, when he had Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, who is a game manager, AJ Brown, number one receiver, and a good offensive line in Tennessee, I think that the Steelers can replicate a lot of the things that they did in Tennessee. Why can't they? This team is not lacking talent on offense. We just don't have a household name quarterback. Like, you have a 1-2 punching Najee and Warren. You have good weapons in Pickens and Deontay and Pat, who had a down year. And maybe in the draft we go out there and we find a tackle or a guard, or, oh my god, I would love a center. Like Jesus Christ, Mason Cole, eh, you're in the NFL, awesome, but he would low snaps, missing blocks. Like there were a handful of things where I was just like, oh my god, we can do so much better with our center, so much better. And I think that with us hiring Arthur Smith, it's going to bring back some philosophies of okay, we might not pass the ball m- maybe 26 to 28 times a game. That would ideally be what it is, but Najee and Warren are going to get a lot of carries, and whenever we do take those big chunk plays, it's not going to be crazy creative. I don't think we're going to get a lot of scheme passes that are just going to be boom, 65-yard touchdowns because a guy was wide open. No, we're going to use our star players, whatever you guys consider a star. I'm going to bludgeon you and play field position and lean into our defense that should be healthy because I liked a lot of the signings that we did last offseason, but everyone was just hurt and injury riddled. We were. And I I had such hope for this year because Kenny looked, for a rookie year, he looked good. And then this past preseason, he was awesome. And then something happened and he got hurt, and Rudolph just came in and was lighting it up. Because Kenny, at his heart, is a play playmaker and not just a pure pocket guy. Like Mason has mobility, but it's not like Kenny's mobility. Kenny's ability to get out of the pocket, and he has a lot of Kenny has a handful of red flags I don't like. Like he'll run himself into sacks. His big, the great thing about his rookie year, he was accurate as hell. And then we see this year he's missing checkdowns and drags, and he overthrew Pickens in the Tennessee game where it was just a flat drag, and he overshot him, and I'm just like, dude, this is not this isn't what you showed. You're better than how you performed this year. So like I probably said earlier, I would love to see Kenny Pickett come in, win his job in training camp, and continue to make strides. But I don't know. It's the unknown. The season's not even over yet. We got one more game. The Chiefs and the Niners again. And I'll do another video here probably in a couple weeks after the season's done of going through all the teams and what they need to do and what I would like to see, but it's still an unknown. Rudolph's a free agent. Steelers could let him walk, but I doubt it. I assume they'd offer him a contract and cut Mitchell Trubisky and then see what you have. Have Kenny and Mason battle it out for QB1. But not to go on the Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph spiel. Arthur Smith, good hire. Could you have hired better offensive coordinators? Probably. But you could have hired a lot less, or a lot worse, I should say, that wouldn't have made as much sense as Arthur Smith does. Was he successful in Atlanta? No. Their points for over his time in Atlanta is they were 26th, 15th, and then 26th again. Like it wasn't anything to write. It wasn't anything to hang your hat on. But of these 5 years that he's been playing, calling plays, they've been a top 10 rushing team 4 of the 5 years. So there's some good. It's just not pretty NFL to today's NFL good. It's more late 90s, early 2000s. And this is going to be it's going to be interesting. I haven't seen the numbers due to how many years the contract is for, but I'm excited. just anyone other than Matt Canada, because we saw when we fired Matt Canada, we had 400 yards for the first time in 59 games. And whether we like him or not, 15 of the 32 games that Arthur Smith was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee, they had more than 400 yards. So, like, he's not a bum. He's good, not great. I'm just, I don't understand the uproar on Twitter. There were other candidates that were in the contention, that were in contention for this job, but Arthur Smith won it. And I think the future is bright for this team and this organization, and I'm happy to see what's next. All right, guys, those are my thoughts and opinions. Let me know in the comments below. Do you guys think it was a good move, or are let me not contradict you guys by saying, or are you still stuck in the mindset of what you saw in Arthur Smith in Seattle, in what you saw from Arthur Smith in Atlanta is just who he is? Because I don't think so. Always, outros are so hit and miss. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.